Hey, what's up, Liches? We're the Basic Liches. We are two D&D dungeon masters looking to learn Pathfinder 2nd Edition for the first time. Today, we're going to be going over the Bard class in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We're going to start with a basic overview of the class, then we're going to jump into a day in the life of a Bard, and then after we'll give some game masters some tips and tricks on how to deal with a Bard in your party.
A couple of disclaimers. This is not a deep dive on the Bard class. We'll leave a link down in the nether region below if you want to learn more. And we're also only using Core Rulebook options today when discussing the Bard. Hopefully by the end of the video, you're going to find something awesome. You're going to be into one of these different Bard Muses, and you're going to think it's a class that you want to play, or maybe not. When you crack open the Core Rulebook, the flavors, the themes of the Bard, the things that we think of are the entertainer, the wanderer, the traveler, the chronicler of all this encyclopedic knowledge of arcane and occult lore, a bullshitter, a con man, a charmer. Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show. I always picture Giles when they're talking about, they're like, oh my god, it's this type of demon. Is there anything that eats hearts, Giles? And he's like, well, I'll hit the stacks and yes, I'll look up. There is one particular demon that might eat hearts. It's from the Mesopotamian era, and you know, like, and he also plays an acoustic guitar. He does play an instrument. My last Bard from pop culture is Antonio Banderas, the El Mariachi from the El Mariachi trilogy. Just this complete badass, going for revenge, hunting people down. He's got all these guns in his guitar case. Very silly, but amazing.
Another trio that I think of are the Sanderson Sisters. I know that they're witches, but they casted all of their spells through some kind of song. Mm-hmm. Winifred does her cast on the entire auditorium of parents, and they all think it's just a fun song, but she's doing these incantations in the middle of her song. I say, it's a pie,
Yep.
And Sarah Sanderson and her children hoarding song, Come Little Children.
Yeah, like the Pied Piper.
Yeah. Before we charm the masses, don't forget to subscribe to Basic Liches for weekly content and Toll the Dead for notifications.
We'd love it if you'd comment on this video down below. Let us know your favorite Bard feats. What are your favorite Bard spells? I always love the Bard. It's one of my favorite classes in most tabletop role-playing games, so I'm always excited to see what a game system has for a Bard. And I think that Pathfinder 2e is doing some very interesting things. I think there's some cool mechanics. It's pretty basic, but I think this is a pretty interesting, and I think it's going to be a fun take on the class that everyone loves to hate.
So what does this class look like at first level?
The first feature we're going to get is occult spell casting. This is how we are going to cast spells as a Bard. And we are going to be casting spells from the occult spell list. We kind of have this esoteric knowledge of the universe and the cosmos and all the weird stuff going on beyond the veil, if you will. Occult spellcasting is going to give us 2 first-level spell slots. And on top of that, as Bards, we can get rid of our material components, the somatic elements and verbal components, and use an instrument to cast spells instead.
So the first term that this class wants us to be aware of is the heightened spell. Heightened spells are spells that you can prepare at higher levels so that they're more powerful. But we're not going to really go over that today. That's going to kind of be more of a second level thing. We also have metamagic. Actions with the metamagic trait will tweak the properties of our spells. They're usually gained through metamagic feats that we get.
Makes sense. An example of this would be the reach spell, which for one action lets you increase the distance of one of your spells by 30 feet. Whether you can cast it as a touch spell that goes from touching to 30 feet, or if you were casting it from something that goes 60 feet, it'll now go 90 feet. Let's talk about the Bard spell repertoire, which is essentially your spell list. At first level, you're going to be getting 2 first-level occult spells and 5 occult cantrips. You can have more spells than you have spell slots, so you can know a little bit more than you have spell slots available to cast. And when you level up, you can swap out your spells for different ones.
A spell.
I think you swap them out. I don't think there's...
You can only do 1.
Really?
Yep.
Actually, that is correct.
You also gain access to composition spells. Composition spells use a special resource called focus points. These focus points can be regenerated by focusing on your composition or your instrument for 10 minutes, or during your daily preparation, you can also gain them back. Composition spells are exclusive to the bard, so you're typically going to be using performance checks to cast them.
And they are automatically heightened.
Kind of like cantrips. There are feats that can give you more focus points for your composition spells, but you can only go up to 3. The first composition spell you acquire is Counter Performance, which basically lets you make performance checks to protect your allies from auditory or visual effects.
On top of getting composition spells, we're also going to be getting composition cantrips, which are very similar in that they are exclusive to the bard class. You typically unlock these with feats, but they do not require a focus point. All bards are going to learn the composition cantrip Inspiring Courage, which is going to give you a +1 to your attack rolls, your damage rolls, and your saves against being feared. Camo, bards, they get inspired by muses. In the core rulebook, we got 3 to choose from. Let's go over them right now.
With the Enigma Muse, you're trying to unravel the secrets of the multiverse. Your muse could be a dragon, could be some other creature from beyond, and we gained the Bardic Lore feat.
We're all about that knowledge with the Enigma Muse. We're just trying to gain as much as possible. Next up, we have the Maestro Muse. This is the virtuoso. You are the bardiest of bards. You are inspiring your comrades, your allies with your compositions and confidence. You gain the Lingering Composition feat at level 1, and as a muse, you might have some sort of angelic, divine, choral angel or something that is just completely beyond your reach as a mortal. You're almost trying to become a god of music, like Freddie Mercury.
The Bardic Polymath Muse wants to know about all things. A little bit about everything. They want to experience life. They're the roadies of the bards. They might have a fey creature as their muse, or some other eclectic deity. They're given the versatile performance feat, as well as the Unseen Servant spell.
Jack of all trades, master of none, polymath muse. Here I come. We thought it would be fun, because this is the first spellcaster that we've looked at, to take a look at some of the first level spells. So, what do you think, Kamo?
Sweet. I chose Shield. I think I chose Shield because I thought it was very different from 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Thought it was kind of interesting. It works similarly, but has a little bit more functionality to it. So when you cast it, you get +1 EC, and it's 1 action, so you could cast it however many rounds you wanted to, and keep recasting, keep getting that 1 EC, but you could also, as a reaction,
raise your shield.
Yes, you can use your reaction to raise your shield as if you were raising a shield when you had an actual shield, but this is a magic shield. So you can raise your shield and you can absorb 5 points of damage, right? We get the 5 hardened.
Hardness?
5 hardness.
I got 5 hardness.
If you use the shield in this way, where you're raising it to block something substantial, you can't cast it again for another 10 minutes. And there's also the Daze cantrip that we thought was pretty cool. It's a little mental jolt, does some damage equal to your spell casting ability modifier. They make a will save to defend against it, and if they critically fail, then they get stunned.
Phantom Pain looks like an awesome little first level spell for bards. It does 2d4 mental damage, and it has a chance to do some 1d4 persistent damage afterwards. Depending on how poorly the will save goes, they can even become sickened. I wanted to point this out because, one, I love how the bard does like a little bit of damage, but then it's also applying conditions, which can be super powerful in Pathfinder 2e. And I love how they're sort of mentalists. They're attacking people's psyches. I think it's really cool, and it makes them different from other spellcasters. The next spell I wanted to highlight is Charm. Again, I wanted to see how different this was from 5th edition. The creature you're casting it against has to make a save, and depending on how they do, is how well or how effective the charm is. My favorite thing is, unlike 5th edition, they don't know that you tried to charm them. If they just succeed at it, they think you tried to use magic on them, but they don't know that you tried to charm them. If they critically succeed, then yes, they do know, but that's like one of the 4 results. Otherwise, they just sort of become like hostile, and they just become like friendly. And then if you get like a if they crit fail, they become like super helpful or something. I love that. I love that it's very clean, it makes sense, and it works so much better than the 5th edition version of Charm.
And now, everyone's favorite segment, a day in the life of the bard. We wake up late. Maybe we kick a few elf maidens out of bed and step over a few halfling groupies. We step outside into the searing hot sun and we just smell the stink of the city. I think we're going to use versatile performance, and we're going to stumble around acting like a morning drunk or a homeless person, and we're going to try to pick up on some conversations, maybe gain some information for the party. Later, the mayor of the town approaches our party and really wishes to speak with the wizard, who's located on a hill in a tower outside of town. Of course, he wants us to do it because this wizard is kind of old and crotchety, and
Naturally.
quick to anger. So we go, we approach the wizard, and he's been day drinking. He immediately sets all the inanimate objects and tools around his workshop to attack us.
So, Kamo, as a bard, how are you dealing with this crotchety drunk wizard?
As a bard, I think we could do our courage composition to kind of boost up the party. We could cast shield on ourselves to stop magic missiles that come at us. We could also use dispel magic on some of the objects that are trying to attack us, kind of turn them back into regular tools and regular brooms. Then finally, when we get fed up, we're going to cast charm on this old wizard and try to work with him a little bit, try to get him to feel friendly toward us. Then we're taking him down to talk to the mayor.
While returning home from the crotchety old wizard adventure, we have to cut through a road in a forest. And we are being chased by a giant green bipedal creature that the barbarian is trying to convince the party is a green giant, which nobody really believes because he's an idiot. While running away and being chased, our bard is going to use bardic lore and trying to recall knowledge. He's trying to think of this children's poem that is on the tip of his tongue. It's right there at the front of his frontal lobe. He's like, do, big and green and got no soul. Ba, 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 kill it with fire, Mr. Mean Old Troll. It's a troll, everyone. Kill it with fire. So he learns the name of the creature, what it is, and he knows its weakness is fire thanks to his bardic lore feat. As we get back to the city and we pass through the front gates, a couple of guards make a snarky comment to our barbarian, Fresnik Reznor. Like, hey, check out the goblin biceps on Tiny over here. This causes the barbarian to lose it because he can't take a diss. But our bard is going to use his cool, calm demeanor and his charm and charisma to defuse and de-escalate the situation. By the end of it, everyone is laughing, having a good time, and we're all going to meet later at the tavern. They're going to watch me play some songs, and everyone's going to have a good time,
Fry
baby.
up some troll steaks.
Yeah. I bet that would be awful.
When we get back to the tavern, we'll probably play a little ditty, earn some extra coin. We're going to be kicking it, partying all night. Might get some new followers, might catch up with the bartender, learn some new hot goss, and then we'll just pass out when we can't possibly go any longer. Let's make some assumptions. What kind of class do we think this is?
This is going to be a buffing, debuffing, utility support kind of class. That's kind of what we're thinking this is.
Yeah. So, Wolf, what's the good and the bad of the bard? What do you feel?
My pros for the bard is that you're not just a shittier wizard. I really like how you're able to sort of give a lot of conditions and boost your allies with your songs. I also really like how much knowledge that the bards have. It's really a core part of this class, and I love how they just can think of locations that you're traveling to. They're going to discover weaknesses for monsters. They're going to know about the history of nobles and civilizations and things. They just know a lot, and I think that's really cool, and I think that's going to be awesome for role-playing.
I also like the Muses. It gives a little bit of more role-playing flavor, kind of like a cleric gets, where they're doing things for their deity.
Sure.
You have motivation to play for someone or for some kind of concept that you live for. What about some cons for the bard class?
If I'm being completely honest with you, I really couldn't find anything that I disliked about this class reading it.
Yeah, without really playing it.
Yeah, I think primarily if you're coming over from 5e and you're expecting it to be like that kind of bard, I could see you being disappointed or sort of, or maybe not disappointed, you'd probably be like, this is way better.
Yeah.
but I think there just might be some conceptual differences from D&D 5e players. That's the only con I can think of. It's not really a con. What kind of player do you think would enjoy the Bard class?
I think the player that would enjoy it would be someone who likes to play a comedic role. They like to jump into comedic roles. They like to bullshit their way through playing and role playing. Heavy role players are going to love this. You're not going to be the biggest damage dealer. You're going to be more of the support role. Someone who likes to be the party favorite or have the attention on them are going to be great players for this role.
If you like the spotlight, or if you're like that actor player, the Bard is for you.
So how difficult is it to learn and play the Bard?
Well, this was our first spellcaster class that we're looking at because we're going alphabetically. And I was really surprised at how straightforward the Bard class is. That's not to say that as it levels up, it's not going to get more complex, but learning it at lower levels, really the only kind of difficult thing are those composition spells and composition cantrips and understanding your focus point pool. That's really it. For me, it's like a 2 out of 5 to learn this.
And now some Game Master tips for a Bard in your party.
Make sure that the Bard is able to build up a reputation and become famous in Galarian. They're going to want people to know their songs and know about their deeds. The Bard is all about the knowledge. Let them know lore about locations, monsters, history. These are things that the Bard will excel at. Don't punish them because these are the things that they're good at. Let them use those abilities and really flourish and shine. Another thing that I like to do with Bards, regardless of system, is I like them to be like favorably received by people. If they're a Bard, they're charming, they're handsome, they're pretty. People are just more naturally inclined to have a positive disposition towards them, especially if they're like a halfling. That's even like extra. People are just fawning over these people. They want them to be cool. They want to hang out with this person. Really play that up. It's the opposite of the barbarian, where people are just like, I don't want to F with that guy.
They can already feel your vibe just by meeting you.
Exactly.
Also, if you have information for the party to uncover, make sure that you have extra details, extra little tidbits that you can give your Bard, because they're going to be rolling higher, they're going to be critting, they're going to become masters and legendary in finding information. You're going to need those little extra tidbits for them to discover, or else they're not going to feel special.
Let's get to some final impressions, and more importantly, how does this Bard stack up against the 5th edition Bard? I'm going to say that I am enamored with this Bard. It has charmed me. Bard is a class that I'm always drawn to, and I have always been disappointed with the 5th edition Bard. It has always felt like a lesser wizard, or you're a skill monkey, you're like kind of a mixture of like a rogue and a shitty wizard. You're expected to heal, and you just have that generic bardic inspiration die. There's no flavor there.
You also have the same spells as a lot of other classes, and you don't really feel unique there, even though you're kind of a caster class.
Yeah, so you really, it's basically the features that you unlock through your subclass. And those can be drastically different. You have ones that are like fighter-based. You have ones that are like the Whisperer, College of Whispers, where you're like, I'm a lore bard, but secretly, I'm an asshole. They're just kind of weird, and they're all over the place, like most of the 5th edition subclasses. They just try to cover the entire gamut of every class.
Yeah.
So you can be like, I want to be a barbarian, but I want to be a spellcaster. Like, they have that. Yeah. Like, the Pathfinder Bard feels unique. It feels like you're your own character class. You're not just a wizard. You're not just another spellcaster. And I really, really appreciate that. And I know we say this about almost like every class, but like I'm reading through this and I'm like, I think I'm going to be a bard. Am I going to be a bard? I loved this class. I'm super stoked to play this at some point. And that's it. That's what we have for the Bard class today. Stay tuned as we are going to be going over the champion next week. If you want to check out more of our Pathfinder 2e character classes, there's a playlist right over there. It's got some videos. Or if you want some more Pathfinder content, check this video right here.
Later, Liches.
Bye!